Sweet.
Hey, we're live. I'm Jeff with eBay Addicts, and today my guest is Hunting with Tripler. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm great, man. I am great. It's a beautiful day out here in SoCal, so yeah, no complaints right now.
Okay, awesome. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience. We're on the live stream, so go tell people who you are, where you're from, and what it is that you do.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Nick on YouTube. We all have our aliases, and mine is Tripler. It's weird, which is totally right up my alley. I'm a very weird, sort of not serious kind of guy. I've been doing the YouTube stuff for a couple of years now and documenting my reselling journey, which has been, I've been reselling pretty much off and on my whole life, but seriously reselling and doing, like documenting it probably like 3 or 4 years. I started filming myself a year before I ever uploaded my first video. So reselling 3 or 4 years, but I do have a day job and I like my day job. Sometimes it's very stressful. And the number of videos that I have been producing since the amount of time I've been spending with my day job it's been doing a little bit of this. So yeah, generally speaking, being a part-time reseller, being a YouTuber, there are times when something's got to give. So yeah, the nature of it is I'm a part-time reseller with full-time inventory and try to make YouTube videos about it.
Yeah, there's only so many hours in a day. We got an echo up.
Is that coming through it? Is that me? All right, hold on. I always have a backup plan when this happens. Hold on a second. We're gonna put some AirPods on, and hopefully that will fix the issue. Let's see if that happens. Give me a sec. All right. How about now? Any better?
All right. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay, we're good. Yeah, we're not echoing now. We're good. So yeah, what I was going to say is that there's only so many hours in a day. When you have a full-time 9 to 5 job plus you're reselling and you're shooting YouTube videos, there's only so many hours out of the day that you have. So at some point in time, you have to kind of balance it out a little bit. So do you mind telling our audience what it is that you do with your day job, or you don't want to talk about it?
I don't talk about it a lot, but basically I can say that I'm in the marketing and event world. The only reason I try to keep those two things separate is simply because I really don't like any of them mixing at all. And not because I'm concerned about the safety of my job or the reselling, but I want to make sure that my job knows that these two things are entirely separate. And I think by doing that, it allows me a chance to be somewhat anonymous in that respect and show them that I'm serious. So it seems kind of funny to say it like that, but I think unless I was willing to go 100%, I think unless I was willing to go 100% dedicated to reselling, I probably would just keep it that way.
Yeah, so I got a question. You have like 3,000 subscribers now. Have you been recognized? Have you been out at a yard sale or a thrift store out somewhere sourcing and someone have recognized you from YouTube yet?
Not yet. I have had one person that messaged me after the fact and said that they saw me at a yard sale, but I've never had anyone either putting on a yard sale or someone else sourcing going, "Hey, I recognize you," which is perfectly fine with me. I'm a happy. I'm not looking for that kind of exposure.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, we're live. Let me say hello to a few people in the chat. I wanted to say hey to Javela Flips is in the chat. Annie says, "Hey Jeff and Tripler." I wanted to say hey to Jim's Closet Jim's is here, and we have Rescue Resale is in the chat. So kind of tell us a little bit about your backstory. How did you get started into reselling? Because I was going back through watching some of your videos, and you were trying to make extra money to help support you and your family, right? So tell us how you got into this whole reselling gig.
So it was probably 2000, and so I guess go back even further. My wife and I always had intentions when we bought our house. We bought a pretty significant sized lot that we always had the intention of expanding the house, because we bought like a 980 square foot house, which by the way, is very common out here. Having a really tiny bungalow is just like, that's what it's like living in Long Beach, Southern California. And when we bought the house, our intention was, all right, one of these days we're gonna have a family, we're gonna grow, we want to be in this spot. And years go by and other houses come up on the market, and maybe you want to sell yours, and maybe you want to get into a different location, and maybe you want to move out of state. And it just turned out that all the variables, when you put them in play, it turned out that the house that we were living in and the lot we were on it was the best value, and it was the best opportunity for growth and to have a big backyard and to have a nice house. So then fast forward to 2017, I was on a vacation up in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and I went to a thrift store, which I hadn't been to a thrift store to look for items for resale in years. I mean, it was probably college was the last time I had done that, and I was like, man, I like this. This feels at home. I mean, the backstory behind that, my grandmother selling antiques and things like that, there were a lot of influences. But I went in and I found like electronics. I found a Mac Mini. I found a MacBook, and I found all these things, just random stuff. I was like, what is all this stuff doing here?
Yeah.
I bought it, took it home, put it on eBay. All the stuff sold within, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And I was like, wow, that was really easy. And I had I had an eBay profile. I had an eBay profile all the way back in 2000. So had a small profile, sold the stuff. It's like, okay, I like that. Went to another thrift store locally, and then it just started to grow from there. And then I started watching YouTube, got some tips from various people.
Right.
I started with like storage locker type videos. I migrated to like Chase After the Right Price was one of the first video game YouTube channels that I started watching, and then it just kind of grew from there. Where you're what you were doing and what you liked about reselling was sort of defined by your own background. And I guess that go from 2013 to buying a house to 2017 going on vacation to all of a sudden coming back and like building all of that into a garage like it's sort of like a garage band, but I had a reselling gig out in my garage, transforming that into our little addition. I'm basically running my business out of my little granny flat. Fast forward to getting a small warehouse space. Fast forward to getting a massive warehouse space. And all of that, kind of part of it was the pandemic that allowed me to do it, and the other part of it was just an opportunity that came up. And like I said, I'm a part-time reseller with literally like full-time inventory. I have a massive amount of inventory in this place.
So how much inventory do you actually have right now listed? Do you have a bunch of like a huge death pile? Like how much stuff do you actually have listed right now on eBay?
That's a good question. I have right now 1450, maybe close to 1500 listings. Really close, but I would say probably 200 of those listings are just trash, like stuff that I've had in my store maybe for 2 years, like stuff that is going to be pulled. So I would say valuable listings, over 1,000 valuable listings, and my conversion rate's pretty good. Within a 90-day period, I'm probably fluctuating every week. I'm selling between 60 to 70 items per week, maybe more than that. The summer's been super slow. It used to be like 200 packages a week, and it's the summer. I kind of forgot your question. Sorry. Sometimes I ramble.
It's okay. So you mainly just stick to your niche with selling video games and video game consoles and accessories. Is that mainly your niche, or do you sell other things as well?
No, I sell lots of stuff. Yeah, those items I love selling because they sell so quickly for me. Video game inventory is one of those things where if you have spent a bit of time with the retro gaming community, whether you're a gamer or not, whether you grew up in the 80s and 90s and you kind of have an awareness of the nostalgia behind those things, then it's good to have that as a part of your reselling manifest or your repertoire. For me, it's electronics, a lot of nostalgia items, a lot of toys, and I dabble in other things, but I absolutely despise selling clothes. I cannot even begin to define why I cannot stand selling clothes, but I'm not a clothing seller, and I know those types of channels do extremely well on YouTube. I do sell a lot of shoes. I don't really talk about that a lot. I probably sell 10, 15 pairs of shoes a week, probably something like that. So I try to be very specific about what I'm selling, and I know that's fairly broad, but it gives you an idea.
All right, so now we got to talk about this a little bit. Tell me about this whole warehouse thing that you got, because I live in Florida. You're all the way in California, and I know the cost of living in California is a lot more expensive than other states. So tell me, like, why couldn't you just, resell like out of, your garage or a storage unit like most people? What kind of decided you to kind of get to that point where you're like, hey, I think I need to upgrade and get a big warehouse to store all my eBay merchandise? And did you get a good deal on the place? Like, explain how that works, because if there's some people where they're like, hey, I want to level up my resale game. The only problem is, you really either going to run out of time, you're going to run out of space, or you're going to run out of money as far as reselling goes. That's all. There's the main like choke points, roadblocks that you have. Either you run out of money to invest in merchandise, you don't have enough time to list it and pack it and ship it, or you just don't have enough space to store everything. So kind of talk to me about how that went for you. Did you kind of stair step and say, okay, I'm here, now I'm here? Like, you gradually kind of went into getting a warehouse?
Yes. So the stair step was, I was selling out of a small armoire in our house, and then that started to overflow with stuff, and I was like, all right, I'll just move it out to the garage. Started moving things in the garage, and fast forward a year later, in the garage, we couldn't park anything in there anymore. We had a small little granny flat attached to the garage, and that starts to fill up, and everyone's kind of looking at me like, this is a problem. And generally speaking, you transition out of your own property the moment you know that either your significant other or your lifestyle has been, your personal lifestyle has been affected by your reselling business. Because the one thing that I think a lot of people have a tough time doing is separating reselling as an entrepreneurial endeavor from their own person. It's like my whole life and my whole being is surrounded by this one business that I started, and it's reselling. And reselling is one of those things where you can just hoard. You can hoard lots of stuff, especially if it's in your own place. Your whole house becomes your business, and it's hard to separate. It's hard to figure out where that stops and starts, where you end and where the reselling starts. That's just something that became so noticeable for me. So it wasn't so much that it made the most sound. I made the most sound decision, an economical decision, to go out and buy, rent, lease warehouse space, because quite honestly, I mean, it started out $700 for, I think, like 1,000 square feet of warehouse space that was more vertical than it was on the ground, square footage wise. And I thought to myself, $700 is doable. I could spend $700. I'm willing to do that to get my life, my personal life, balanced, and to get the clutter away from my family, my kids, my wife. I mean, that's not something I wanted to really do, and it just happens naturally. But what became really apparent, it was the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic offered me an opportunity because I was selling so much stuff. I mean, last year, in terms of revenue, not cost of goods, but just revenue alone, and this is not, trust me, because part of what I'm going to be documenting on my YouTube channel is going to be a lot more transparency on what my sales are every week and what my cost of goods, not what solds, and I have no problem with people who do that, but the transparency of what my sales were. I was over 180,000 in revenue last year, and it might have been slightly more than that. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, if that's my sales trajectory, then it made sense to me to invest. I'm investing about $24,000 a year in this lease for a larger space now, because I moved into a 3,000 square foot space that has 2 lofted offices, which is where I'm sitting right now. It's got 2,400 of square foot space down below with the 600 square foot lofted space. I've got a huge driveway, I started leasing out some of my space to a photographer who comes and takes photo shoots, so I'm getting some money back on that. I have other kind of entrepreneurial endeavors that I don't talk about on YouTube at all. So I think economically, if it makes sense to move from garage to small warehouse to large warehouse, by all means, do it. My decision was initially to get away from the clutter and the lifestyle that was happening in my house to get into that small $700 space into what you see now, which was totally based on the pandemic, completely, 100%.
Yeah, man, 180,000. That's a lot. That's a whole lot for someone that does it part time, because you still have your full time job as well. So let me say hello real quick to a few people in the chat. Miss Gail is here, says warehouse sales would be great. I wanted to say hey to Katie Reeds is here in the chat. Wanted to say hey to Health and Money is here, and I wanted to say hey to Regina Michelle is in the chat hanging out with us. Hey Regina. So if you guys have questions for our guests, go ahead and drop it in the chat. So I got a bunch of questions for you. So you've got your warehouse now, you've got your full-time job, and you said you did about $180,000 gross last year. That's not net. Yeah. That's gross. Yeah. How does somebody go about if I have a business and I'm doing this part-time, maybe I'm like you and I have a full-time job, I have a wife, I have kids, I have family, I have a limited amount of time, I have a limited amount of space. How do I go about growing and scaling my business? Let's say I'm doing $1,000, $2,000 a month in sales, and I want to grow it and scale my business so I can get to the point where I'm making, $8, $10 a month, something like that in sales. It doesn't have to be 100,000, but let's just say I'm at 10,000 and I want to get to 100,000 in sales. What do I need to do to help grow and scale my business? You have some advice?
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be where you're at, where you're located in the country is going to be a huge factor into how you're able to scale and what kind of items you're going to buy. If you're in a really heavily populated area, then the chances of not success, but your chances of getting to where you want to be with your business, how you want to grow, it's just going to happen faster. With respect to being in some of those smaller markets, it's totally doable because a big portion of my business comes from online arbitrage that literally gets delivered to my door. So it's not to say that you can't, build a business where, you're in a small market. The reason I bring that up is if you want to get to a place where you have financial independence, you're able to sustain the work, the sales, there's some, of course, there's other factors that come in. And the first one for me is you got to love what you're selling. I probably in the last month, I've listed over 1,000 video games, and it just yesterday I hit a wall and I was like, oh, I think I'm done. And I had a stack about this large left to do, and I just
right
put it on the ground just because I couldn't look at another game. Like things like Wii and GameCube and all sorts of random stuff. Anyway, my point here is that you got to like it. So if you're one of those people that decides, hey, the clothing market is sustainable for me where I'm at, I can get good inventory where I'm at, or I can get a lot of quality items through the mail or this or that. If you're like me, you'd never last because I can't stand selling clothing. I can't stand it. But there's a lot of people out there that absolutely love it. So it's finding a product that you can sell that's going to be the backbone of your business, right? If you're going to build the backbone of your business off of everything random that you ever find from a garage sale, not sustainable. It's just not. It will not be a sustainable model if you decide that you're going to just sell anything and everything and you don't have something that is basically like it supports your business every single day. I had last year, this was a huge surprise for me, but I bought this massive GoPro lot, right? And you fast forward to today, and I bought that lot for $500, and I have now probably $20,000 in sales from that, and I didn't know it at the time, but you look at today and I go, wow, that is a supporting item in my business. Had that not been there, a lot of different things would have happened. The point is that if you don't have something that's truly making you stand upwards in your business, sales are solid, then you're going to be someone who's always wondering, how do I do this? How do I get your sales? It's not about what I'm selling or what you're selling. Just sell something you like. Sell something you like, as long as the sale through rate on eBay is good. If you can sell that item on Amazon, you got to find the right product. There's so much competition too right now. If you go back to the summer before the pandemic, the competition wasn't, 2019 wasn't like this. The summer is always tough, right? But it was not like it is now. And the truth is that there are so many people doing reselling now, and they're finding the same products that you're selling. It is extremely hard to just be random with your reselling venture. You can't get away with that anymore. You've got to package it. You've got to package yourself. You don't have to be on YouTube to be a good reseller. That's ridiculous.
That's just something extra, like extracurricular activity, right?
Totally extra. You just have to have that sustainable piece in your business, and ideally it's something you enjoy. Sporting equipment, clothing, shoes. I mean, there are so many just shoe resellers out there that are killing it, just buying and selling shoes. If anyone wants to know a product that's hard to get constantly, it's shoes. It is impossible for you to go to any good store in the United States and find a plethora of good quality shoes. You know where it is? It's eBay. So if you want to be killing it right now, go buy a ridiculous amount of shoes at a price of under $10 per shoe, and you boom, you're ready to go. As long as you like selling shoes. That's probably that's the kind of advice that everyone gives. It's the truth. That's just the reality.
Yeah, so you need to enjoy what you're selling, and then you got to kind of reinvest your capital back in your business, and then it's not going to happen overnight. You're just going to gradually scale it, because how long have you been reselling? You've been doing this gig for a while, right?
Where the scale that I'm at right now started really last year. I mean, I took like January and February off, not completely, but I wasn't listing anything in 2020, January and February, nothing, like absolutely nothing. When the pandemic hit, and then March, we were hearing about the pandemic. Everyone was kind of knowing something was up. Things started to shut down. I had a massive death pile, and you had a death pile last year, and you were golden. And yeah, so had it not been for that, had it not been for the fact that there was a massive death pile, there was an opportunity last summer, it just wouldn't have happened this way. It just wouldn't have, because my sales last summer were nuts. From March until, it was March all the way until like February of this year. They were just insane. Of course, there was the spike in June maybe. It started to go down in July. Those 3 months made everything for me. And so investing my capital back into my business was pretty simple. It was, you're doing this much volume. And I think 2 months ago I got an employee. So he works for me 20 hours a week, and he basically does all my console testing. He does cleaning products, getting them ready for photography. He's been taking some photographs for me now, and I haven't transferred the listing yet. That's one of those things that I don't think I'll ever give up, because it's just such a hard thing to give up. But anyway, I've invested in my business a lot. The physical place, employee. So yeah, I would say investing in your business is key to being able to grow. People don't know how to do that. It's hard. How do you grow your business? I don't want to say what I want to say, but it's not hard. It's not easy. There's nothing easy about it. You got to take some serious risk to do it. Yeah.
The thing is, it's like, if you want to make more money on eBay, you kind of have to spend more money on merchandise. Like, I can't come and spend the same $500 every month to buy in merchandise, because you're just recycling that same merchandise over and over and again. You're going to have to get to the point where you're spending more money on merchandise. Like, I follow another YouTuber, and he spends $3,000 a month on inventory every single month. So I mean, if you break that down, that's like $100 a day that you're spending just buying merchandise to resell. So at some point, you're going to have to spend more money to make more money. I mean, that makes sense. But the main thing that I really wanted to talk to you about today is, I've been a subscriber of your YouTube channel for a while. I'm sure you see me in the comments section. But what I wanted to talk, what I wanted to talk to you about today is as far as sourcing, because what a lot of people, because you have a full-time job that you work as well, besides reselling and YouTube, you have a full-time job. So time is not like, you don't have a ton of free time. So what you've been doing is the trick that I've been doing is sort of buying stuff in bulk, bidding online. Maybe I'll go on eBay, I'll go on HiBid, and I'll bid on a big wholesale lot of merchandise and have it shipped to my door. And one of your recent videos, you were talking about how you won this auction. I think it was on GoodwillShop.com, and you won this auction of video games, and you spent like $400 on these video games. But you had a whole box full of merchandise, and you easily probably maybe tripled your money on that deal.
Yeah,
what would you say that you did on that particular deal?
So part of it was knowing, obviously, I knew what I was looking at, and I could, So I mean, the backdrop of it. If people are wondering about buying and sourcing online, there are a lot of different ways to do it. I mean, you have people. If it's video games, some people go to GameStop online and just buy a whole bunch of the sale items and then just resell it on eBay and Amazon. That happens all the time. That's an individual type purchase. For me, like you, I love doing the big lots. I like buying bulk. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people love going to garage sales, is because by the end of the day, you have a whole bunch of inventory that ideally you're ready to list that next week, or hopefully it doesn't end up in a death pile that you don't see for a year later. But for me, it is finding a good source. So shopgoodwill.com, a lot of people don't like because there's just so many people doing it. But for me, it's a little different because I'm able to aggregate my search to just a small area and a small set of stores that I can do either one local pickup and remove all of the shipping costs. Because I'm in Southern California, that's a benefit to me. I can find states that are immediately adjacent to California, so the shipping costs are super low. Or I've done Shop Salvation Army. They have one as well. It's only located in the West Coast right now. I've done eBay, a ridiculous amount on eBay, and I have done the most on Mercari. I go on Mercari and I buy stuff all the time. I mean, I probably buy 5 or 6 things a day. So it means that there's a stop and starting point for me. Oh my goodness. I could easily, and this is not a joke, I could spend $1,000 a day if I didn't have at some point go, all right, I know what my stopping point is. I know how much I can actually process in a certain amount of time. And as long as sales are at a particular point, I know how much I can spend. But yeah, I source at all of those places. Stuff shows up at your door, and if it doesn't work, I send it back. That's the best part. So I don't have to worry about if it doesn't work. I send it back. And of course, it's a little bit of extra time, but I never have to leave my house, and I never have to wonder about, am I going to go find something at a thrift store? Am I going to go find something at a garage sale? I know I'm going to find something on these sites.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I work my regular day job in the middle of the night, so it's difficult for me. I'm not a morning person at all. It's difficult for me to get up at 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning to hit yard sales. And sometimes I'll go to the thrift store and I'll be like, great, I found 5 items. Okay, great. You made $50, $100 worth of merchandise. Now what? You know, when I can go online and get $1,000 shipped to my door, 1,000 items at once, and I've spent $400 and I'm turning my $400 into $10,000 worth of merchandise. And it took me 5 minutes out of my day, and it boom showed up at your door. That relieves a lot of free time for me, because I don't mind listing, I don't mind packing and shipping. It's just you only have so many hours in a day, and when you're working a full-time job and shooting YouTube videos and taking care of your family, the sourcing time allocation you have to go get gas, find a parking spot, fight traffic, wait in line to check out, and then come home with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items, you just felt like you wasted your whole day. So, yeah, I've actually shopped before on shopgoodwill.com's website, and I have never heard of the other one you told me about. What was it? Salvation Army's website?
They've got one. Yep, they've got one. It's not even close to as big as Shop Goodwill. The only problem with it is that if you're Middle America or East Coast, you're going to get destroyed on the shipping. So since it's West Coast, most of them are just California based. It's nothing. I never spend more than $10 on shipping of large bulk items. So that one usually works out for me. And then I've made multiple videos about Mercari purchases. I mean, Mercari is one of those places where if you want to just snipe like at night, or if you want to get on eBay at like 1 a.m., those are two solid tips for you. Get up be on those sites really late, because some people put an auction and they start it because they're either new sellers and they start it at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and they don't realize that who's going to be awake at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's when you get in there and you snipe that item. That's it. You snipe all day long, and that's been highly successful for me. And I would say 80%. It's the balances are tipping a little bit differently just because it's garage sale season. Thrift stores are getting overwhelmed with stuff. So those are the summertime when sales are slow. Most people are like, man, this is not a good time to buy. Well, it's the best time to buy as long as your business is at a place where you can actually receive the inventory. You've got enough to really, push you forward. You got to be able to pay yourself. And if that's the case, I would say right now, the last month, 50% thrift store, garage sale, 50% online arbitrage.
Okay, and if someone is not a subscriber of your channel or they didn't see one of your recent videos, can you give us an illustration? Like, you spent $400 on these PS2 video games. How much value of merchandise do you think you got from buying this bulk merchandise shipped to your door?
It was nuts. If I remember correctly, I think it ended up being about $1,200 gross, and after shipping, fees, cost of goods, I'm gonna be in that probably $700 profit, taxable income, 700 on that. It's somewhere in that range. The thing is that what I saw and what people were afraid of when they were looking at it is, you saw a lot of video games in a big box. You could see every single title. It wasn't like it was hidden. And when a reseller is looking at that lot, they're looking at their margin. They want to buy a dollar game that they can sell for $100. The truth is that I just don't mind buying a game for $50 and selling it for $100. I mean, that margin is still really healthy. In some cases, I'll buy a game for $60 to make $100 on it, because again, that's a nice solid number for me, especially when you're dealing with something that's easy to ship, something that's easy to test. So what I saw was a huge box full of those types of games. I saw there was one game in there for $180, and I bought the whole thing. I think the total amount was like $410 shipped to my door. Yeah. And on the surface of it, the consoles were untested. The games, of course, they're calling untested, but almost every game was like pristine. And at that level, when you started seeing all the games coming in, I mean, the games themselves were it was like over $800 in games. Consoles, you add another $400 in PS2 consoles. It was just like, this was a no-brainer. I mean, it was one of the better purchases I've had online recently. But then I've had others, and I've had some terrible returns on some of that stuff. And that's one of those instances where you're like, oh god. Selling video games can also be just the flip side of it can just be really annoying. Really annoying. Yeah.
And you had some of them were still brand new in the shrink wrap that they don't make anymore. So you were able to sell those for a premium, and you easily, just watching the video, because I'm running the numbers in my head, and I was like, all right, here's cost of goods. Here's how much you paid shipping. I was guesstimating around $700-800. So when you said 700, I was like, we're right in the same ballpark, So we have a bunch of questions here in the chat. Adebayo was in the chat. He says, when will you become a full-time reseller? So if you have any plans in the future of leaving your full-time job to be a full-time reseller, you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, I've had this question multiple times over the last couple of years, and I would think the life cycle of my full-time job, I don't want to say it's nearing its end, but I would say in what I do, there's only so much that, unless you're somebody, the idea that Fred works at the newspaper for however many years and you just become a staple of the job you're in. I'm not sure that's ever been something that I want to do. I don't want to be the guy that you go, oh, this, and it's Nick. That's not something that has been. I always like being challenged. I also have been an entrepreneur since college. I bought my first house in 2003. It's currently an Airbnb. I bought a second property. I have a lot of other investments, not stock market. I don't really do that. I think I have a little bit of funny money in the stock market, but if anyone asked me, what are your investment strategies? I disappoint many of you because I don't have very many. But in a roundabout way, what I've been trying to do is build up enough passive and non-passive income. I mean, reselling is not passive, I'll tell you that much. But trying to build up enough income that when I don't have a full-time job anymore, my house is totally fine. Because what I can't do is drop my full-time job, drop that income, and then try to have these other things catch up. All of these other things are established. They're working for me. I've been involved with some other items from out in Baltimore, that entrepreneurial endeavors, and all of these things, they start to kind of come together. And if they were all aligned, then I would say I'd quit tomorrow. But they're just not. And I've been in this industry that I've been working in for 14, 15 years. So, you put that much time into an industry, and you're either getting paid well that it's hard to walk away from, or you're getting good health benefits. So again, I think all of my other side projects and passions need to kind of align. If YouTube was better for me, I think if I felt that I could turn the reselling, the YouTube switch on and turn my channel into something that had just way more growth potential, that'd be another vertical for me that I'd try to conquest. But you can see how all of these things aligning would allow me that flexibility to say I can walk away from my job, but it just hasn't happened yet. So I don't know. The answer is I don't know.
Yeah, when you have a regular full-time job or you have a regular paycheck coming in every Friday, it's hard to give that up to say, well, we're just going to make it on hope and a prayer and hope that I make enough sales this month to pay all the bills, because it's not just you. You have a wife, kids, you have family you have to take care of. And, yep. Cost of living in California is really expensive. So you can't just be like, we'll be just fine. I'll see ya.
Exactly.
So it's very, very difficult to do that. I don't know if you'll make that transition. So we have a question here from Cherry Picker Flipper says, hey, what do you sell the most of? So out of your eBay store, what are the items that are like hot selling items for you right now?
So summertime, year round, you can sell video games, especially if you're competitive with your pricing. I mean, honestly, look, if you're somebody who focuses on eBay and if it's not a unique item, like one of the cool things about eBay is unique items. You put something unique on eBay, and it doesn't matter the sell-through rate. You could genuinely, unique items sell really well. Things like a vintage poster from like the 70s or 80s, like this iconic jukebox, small portable jukebox that you could have gotten from a restaurant. There's all sorts of random stuff, right? But for me, I talked about the sort of the backbone of my business has been video games, and I don't play a lot of video games. I really don't. Like, surprisingly, I have a Switch that I got, and I've put a little bit of time into that. I'm actually playing this game right now. It would be Mario Golf, for anybody who's curious. But video games are probably the thing I sell the most of. I pack up, anywhere between 4 to 15 items, depending upon the time of year. I have prepped myself from January to today to be ready for Q3 and Q4, end of Q3 and Q4. I'm going to be selling an insane amount of consoles this year because I've been stockpiling them. I am so ready for Christmas to come around. I work all year for Q4. I mean, I really do. Yeah. I would say I sell video games. Shoes probably comes in, random electronics that come, GoPro accessories, probably in that order. I would say video games, shoes, random electronics and GoPro stuff.
Okay, cool. Now, for our audience that are watching, do you have any tips or tricks or advice that you could give them to help them out with reselling? Because you said you've been doing this since like 2014, so it's 2021. So you've been having 7 years now of of experience and knowledge. Is there any kind of words of wisdom or any type of knowledge or 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you can give to our audience that would help them out with their reselling business?
Yeah. Well, number one is less about reselling. Don't feel here, and I say this honestly. Don't feel like you have to document what you're doing on YouTube because everyone else is. I'm serious. I'm bringing that up to say this. Don't sacrifice hours spent on YouTube for making your business a really solid place for you to make money. If you have the dream and aspirations of being a YouTuber, then do that. You can do both. That's not my point. You can absolutely do both. But if your goal at the end of the day is to make good money, don't think you have to. Because a lot of people who have been getting into the reselling business feel like, all right, if I'm going to do reselling, I got to get my YouTube channel going. I got to get Instagram, and all of those things are absolutely fine. I do it. You do it. It's not because you don't have to. Just make sure that you're balanced. Okay, that you don't have to have both. That's a simple tip. The second thing is, if you're going to sell stuff you don't know anything about, you're going to have a bad time. Eventually, you're going to have a really, really bad time because you're going to have to answer questions. You're going to get feedback from buyers about stuff that you don't know anything about it, and you won't have any choice but to either accept a return, accept the feedback. You're going to have that moment in time. If you're going to start selling stuff you don't know anything about, eventually that's going to catch up to you. So make sure you're staying in your lanes. It doesn't mean you can't get outside of it. It doesn't mean you can't learn about another category, but you can be a jack of a lot of trades and sell on eBay. That's definitely doable. Don't think you can just, come out of the gate knowing nothing and just start selling a particular item. You can get lucky. You can find really awesome items on eBay. I mean, I found a metal melting pot or smelter. I think that's what they're called at a Goodwill like 3 or 4 years ago. It was like a $500 item. I found it for $9. It was new in the box. I don't know anything about that. I got lucky, found it, sold it within a week, and made really good profit. But the point is that if I would have stockpiled those, let's say I had a manufacturer who's selling this stuff to me, I'd be screwed because I would have had so many returns, or I've had so many questions about, the type of furnace it is. And you got to know what you're talking about in order to be successful at selling that. So that would be a second tip. And then I think last is, and I sort of mentioned it, don't let reselling define who you are. Your businesses are great, and it's super critical. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to own your own business, I think reselling is one of the easiest things, and I've advocated it for years. I try to tell people all the time, if you're going to do it, get into reselling. Reselling is one of the easiest businesses to start. You need no capital to get going. You could start with $1. You could start with free. You could go find something in your own house and sell it. So I'm a big advocate of that. But don't sacrifice your own personality. Don't bring up talking about reselling to people who care less about it. Make sure that there's still a person in there, right? That you are still a human being who can who has a life, and it doesn't stop and start around reselling. Those are 3 tips I can give, aside from the million others that there are.
Right. Hey, Nick, we're running out of time, buddy, but I wanted to ask you.
I got a few more minutes. I got a few more minutes.
Right.
All good.
Okay. Now tell us a little bit about what are some of your plans you have in the future. Let's say 3 years, 5 years from now. Like, what are some of your goals? Because I was watching your videos and I could tell you're a really goal-oriented type of person. So what are some of your other future endeavors or future projects that you're working on? Because I can tell the wheels in your brain. It's like your brain doesn't turn off. It is always going, And so I know you have some tricks up your sleeve you can kind of share with our audience about. Any new future projects that you're coming up working on soon?
Yeah. So specifically, how reselling is going to influence the channel. I've spent so much time trying to figure out what my audience likes to watch, and it's really difficult to figure out what that is. I could have a video that I think should have 1,000 views, get 300, and I sit back and I go, what's happening there? But the reason why I do this is because I think I'm the most random person on the planet. And I think that what I do is interesting for people who do similar things and try to put an entertaining spin on it. I don't claim to be an expert at reselling. I just know I've been, fortunate enough to be successful, and I like to share some of that success with others so that they can hopefully find good money in it. But the future of the channel is going to revolve around transparency a little bit more, trying to show how can I get to this much money in 1 year. So I'm going to be starting season 3 of Hunting with Tripler, meaning 2 years ago I started right out of the gate selling and documenting it on YouTube. Fast forward a year later, wrapped up season 1, pandemic hit. Fast forward a year later, and we've been able to get through most of the pandemic. And season 3 now is going to be evolving the channel to focus in on. I'm going to talk about my sales every week. I'm going to talk about how much I spent. I'm literally going to open up my bank account and I'm going to show people, pretty much exactly what I'm spending on my business to give people a better sense. Where are the sources coming in? Try to put the entertaining spin on it. And what I'd like to have happen in the next, year is that creates a awareness around what resellers can do out in my area versus what you can do in yours. Not to say I'm doing better, but to try to give you an idea. Hey, if someone who's doing it part-time can do this, then maybe I can do this, right? So a little more transparency, I think, helps in that respect. For my greater goal in the business is to be able to, within the next 2 years, never have to worry about listing, never have to worry about taking any pictures or processing anything. I want to have enough employees working for me that I can do the part that I love most, which is hunting for the treasure. And that's what I think will eventually happen. But on the reselling side, it's automating the business. And on the YouTube side, it's creating more transparency. And of course, with the weird and more transparent spin.
Okay, awesome. So you're going to be able to kind of outsource some of your responsibilities and have some other people do some listings for you. Let me say hello to a few people in the chat. I wanted to say hey to Nakoma Fines is here in the chat. I wanted to say hey to the ATL Flipper. I wanted to say hey to Javela Flips is here. Miss Taffy is here. Says hey everyone. I had to come by and show my Cali buddy some love. Health and Money is here. Storage Dogs is here. Says what's up, fam? And Health and Money says, do you sell on other platforms? So is there any other platforms besides eBay that you're currently selling on?
Yes, I sell on Amazon, and I sell primarily video games and books on Amazon. I had my worst experience on Amazon just this last week where I sold a disc-only $200 Sega Saturn game that I sent to them, tested, worked great. Got the item sent back to me because they said it didn't work and it was a cracked disc. They swapped the disc. They basically gave me their broken version, and I was left basically out the money and with their broken game. So I sell on Amazon, but I really don't love the platform I sell on it because it's kind of you're selling video games. You sort of have to a little bit. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't. But I don't love the platform. I don't love the customer service. It's not my favorite platform to sell on. But I've stayed away from Mercari primarily because I want more exposure with my listings, and Mercari has literally like less than 5% of what the exposure of eBay has. So I kind of stay away from that platform. I do recommend people using it, especially to get their feet wet in terms of selling. But it's primarily those two, and I use OfferUp for large items that I sell locally. And I stay away from Facebook Marketplace because I genuinely think the platform, the user interface, the UI, is awful. I think the Facebook UI is truly one of the worst experiences ever. I hate listing on it. I hate finding things on it. It's not very intuitive, and that's the reason why I do OfferUp versus Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, the ATL Flipper says, what's your link so I can subscribe to you? I have all his links down below in the description. If you click on the description, you'll see his links to Instagram and YouTube. But go ahead and tell them where they can check you out at on YouTube and Instagram so they can come by and follow you.
Yeah, all my channels are the same. It's basically Hunting with Tripler. If anyone wants to know where that name came from, it's not a great story. It was a night in college with my cousins who thought somehow that name resonated. It was weird, and no one's gonna like the story, but it stuck with me, and so it's Tripler. So just forgive me for not having a better story behind it.
All right. Now, I want to talk to you real quick before we let you go a little bit about YouTube, because I get messages from people all the time, either emails or messages on Instagram, and maybe they're starting their YouTube journey, and trying to go from 0 to 1,000 subscribers is a little bit of a struggle. I mean, it's not something where you just, oh, I'm here and it happens overnight. I mean, I think when I was trying to do it, it took me maybe 10 months to get my 1,000 subscribers. And once I got there, I was like, okay, great. Now I still have this much more to go as far as watch time hours. So because you're a YouTuber, you have like 3,000 subscribers now. What type of tips or tricks or advice can you give somebody to help them out with their YouTube journey? They're like, hey, I have 50 or 100 subscribers. I'm trying to get to 1,000. I'm trying to get monetized. I'm grinding. I'm putting out content, but I just feel like I'm banging my head up against the brick wall. Like, what would you tell them?
I mean, it's a never-ending grind. You're going to hear it from people, and look, I can give you a few tips versus hearing the same thing you're going to hear from everyone else who's trying to scratch to get to 1,000. I got one shout out from a large YouTube channel from Retro Rick. He really pushed my channel up to over 2,000 subscribers. Before that, the first tip I'll give you is, if there's a channel that's growing, you can reach out to and buy something from their store. I'm honestly, I made an investment. I bought a Super Nintendo from Chase after the right price. This is not a joke. I'm literally telling all of you guys exactly what I did. And I messaged him in my eBay purchase, and I basically said, hey man, I love your channel. I've started mine, and if you think the content's interesting, if you even think it's somewhat interesting or valuable, I would love a shout out. But if I don't want you to do it just because I'm buying something from you, I genuinely want you to do it if you think it's good. I'm sure I have the message saved somewhere. And he did. He gave me a shout out. So I went from, relative obscurity to probably 500 or 600 subscribers just by, asking for a shout out from someone. Of course, I invested some money to do it. I would have bought this item anyway. It's sitting up here now in my collection, and it's a prized collection. I love looking at it. That was tip number one. Some people may go, that's not cool. Why do that? But I could point to 25 other YouTubers who, if you're not leaning on other people to help you grow your channel, then you may be in relative obscurity forever. You take away the Chase shout out and you take away the Retro Rick shout out, and if I had 1,000 subscribers, I'd be shocked right now. I'd be shocked. It's not because I think I'm putting out bad content. I think there are a lot of YouTubers who have awesome content who are not getting any recognition. And then I also think the flip side. I think there are genuinely YouTubers out there who make terrible content who have ridiculous amounts of subscribers. It's somewhere I'm going. So understanding that part of it will never net you the kinds of, it'll never make you feel good. So you've got to be creative with how you can get your content looked at by somebody. Ask someone for a shout out. Don't be afraid to ask. Just ask. I mean, do what you need to do to get your channel to get some love. Because if you're just going to let the YouTube algorithm do it for you, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen unless you have some viral video of you know, getting chased by police after you bought something from a thrift store, and you know they think you're a robber. The point is that you if you don't have something viral and you don't have something else to offer your audience, you're gonna have a bad time. So you got to go out there,
Right.
and I don't want to say you have to pay for it, but you've got to be creative with who you're asking, who you can get some shout outs from, who you can catapult your name out there. I think TikTok's a great channel. I post to TikTok almost every single day, and that's another way I've been trying to convert TikTok viewers into YouTube viewers. I've been trying that. I've tried everything you can think of to convert people to be a subscriber to my channel. To be honest with you, subscribers don't really matter. It's viewership. Views matter more than subscriptions. But I care a lot about subscribers because I feel like if I want this to be, like I talked about earlier, something that would be in my, to actually make money, I need way more subscribers than views. I have made, just full transparency, I've made less than $100 since I've been monetized. Less than $100. So for anyone who thinks they're going to get monetized and make big money, unless you have a viral video, it's not going to happen. Just totally honest with you. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to keep doing it. You just have to be totally aware of what you're getting yourself into. And that's why I say, make sure that if you want to be a reseller, you don't have to be a YouTuber either. So,
yeah, I would say just try to be consistent. Try to collaborate with other people in your niche, because you got to remember, we're in a small niche market. We're not in a video game niche. I'm not in,
right.
reviewing movies that's coming out in theaters. Yeah. I'm not getting 10,000 viewers. And just try to comment on other people's channels that are way bigger than yours. Find somebody like Cincinnati Picker or Craigslist Hunter or somebody that has 200,000 subscribers. Hit the notification bell, and as soon as their video drops, leave a comment, because you're trying to drive traffic to your channel without being a jerk about it. You're not saying, "Hey, come check me out, look at me," but you're just exactly. being involved in the community. You're leaving comments, and you're being involved in live stream chats. You're collaborating with other people, and then it's going to happen slowly. Like I said, it took me 10 months. So if you're ready to put in a year worth of work and have zero return on your investment, go for it. But once you
got there faster than I did. It took me I think 18 months to get to 1,000. So
all right.
Took me a long time.
Yeah, the ATL Flipper, he says, "What's your eBay store so I can buy something from you and get a shout out?"
You there's no obligation. I'm happy to give you a shout out. Coming from me, and again, this is not to spin what you're asking for and me sounding like I'm not trying to preach what I'm teaching here. Teach what I'm preaching, but the point is that my subscriber and viewership is so low that I don't know if it'll help. But if you send me a link to your content, you don't have to buy something from me. I rarely get people saying, "Hey, check out my channel," but a lot of times I do. If I respond, it's because I genuinely like it. If I don't, it's because it's not something I want to promote, and no one needs to take that personally. It's if I'm going to check you out and I feel like you've got something that really needs to get out there, I do it for nothing. No one needs to pay me anything.
Right. I wanted to say hey to BK from the Rockies. Hey, man, I ran into you yesterday on another YouTuber's channel, so we appreciate you coming by and hanging out, man. So, Tripler, man, we've had you on the channel for about an hour, man. If you could kind of wrap this up and kind of give me your final thoughts, and then we'll let you go. And hopefully we'll have you back on again sometime whenever you're free, because I had a good time chatting with you today.
Yeah, man. I thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you bringing me on. This is one of those things where I think this is my third live. I don't do a lot of them. I appreciate the invite and the opportunity. I usually would say yes to something like this. This is one of those things where talking about reselling, talking about what I do is something where when you're in a very lonely business, I mean, a lot of people are out there doing it by themselves. It's kind of nice. One of the benefits to being on YouTube is you don't feel so lonely anymore, and that's kind of the byproduct of being a reseller and being on YouTube, is that you kind of feel like there's a larger community that you can be a part of. So I appreciate that there's a lot of people out there that enjoy watching my content, enjoy actually hearing what I have to say. That surprises me sometimes. And just generally speaking, I I would give all of you the same advice that I would give to myself, which is, as being a reseller, someone who owns their own business, if you're not willing to put in the work, just stay as far away from reselling as possible. Because if you think this is going to be an easy thing, you're going to have a bad time. But if you're willing to put in the work, reselling is one of the most satisfying and one of the most immediate rewards you can get in a business, because the moment you find out that you sold something, it's the greatest feeling, right? You have that immediate sense of a reward. So it's one of the hardest jobs on the planet, but it's the most rewarding. And I hope all of you are very successful in it. I hope when you go out on the weekends, you find a whole bunch of great stuff. I hope your sales continue to elevate. I hope those of you who are just hitting a wall right now, wondering if your sales are going to pick up, they absolutely will. There's also a cycle right now. We're seeing a lot of people who have either come off from either having a full-time job and are trying reselling, and they're going to realize right now that they can't sustain themselves through, the summers. There's going to be people who will fall off. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but stay with it, because by the time we get to fall, you're going to see some serious uptick in sales, and you're going to be happy that you stuck around. I promise you that.
Yeah, for sure. Reselling, you're going to get out of it what you're willing to put into it. So I wanted to give a shout out real quick to Westside Gary.
What's up, man?
He says, "What's up, Tripler?" He says, "Listening while driving. Great show, gents. I wanted to say hey to the ATL Flipper here. Says, I'm leaving the Goodwill, picked up some good stuff. Thanks for the encouragement. I wanted to say hey to Miss Taffy. Says, has a good weekend. BK from the Rockies is here in the chat. And Javela Flips Annie and Katie Reeds and anybody else I missed in the chat. So if you guys got nothing else to do this weekend, tomorrow, Saturday, I have Rico Copeland will be on all the way from Texas. He's going to teach us all about the shoe resale game. So he has, I don't know, like 20,000 subscribers or something. So if you guys want to come by and hang out with Rico and learn about this shoe resale game, I'll see you tomorrow on Saturday, 4 o'clock Eastern. We'll have a great time. I'll see you then. Till then, you guys have a great weekend, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye, everybody.
Take care, guys.